Let's start another new file. Go to File, New. In this file, press R for the rectangle tool, and let's draw a larger rectangle to the left, and then a smaller one to the right. Then hold down on your center mouse wheel to orbit, and orbit yourself into a 45-degree bird's eye view. Then press P for push-pull. Let's push-pull this larger rectangle up into a larger box, and then the smaller rectangle up into a smaller box. Now, let's say we want to move this smaller box so that it's touching and flush with the side of this bigger box. Well, first, remember to move something like this. We want to pre-select it so that it moves rather than being edited. So press spacebar for the select tool and triple click 1, 2, 3 on the little box. That selects the whole thing. Then press M for the move tool. And whatever you do, don't do what I'm about to do, but the common thing with the move tool that you'll get frustrated with is you'll click anywhere on this box, and then you'll try to eyeball where you're moving it to, and then you'll wonder why it's sinking into things. So if you followed along, hit the escape key on your keyboard to let that operation in progress go. When you move things, you want to be really precise. So the move tool can be actually quite easy to use once you ingrain what I'm about to show you. And that's that if you want to match this box up to a very particular place on this larger box, then you need to be very intentional about what point you click on this box. So try this. Hover over the bottom left corner endpoint and click on it and let go of your mouse button. Now you're moving the whole box. Now put your cursor onto this bottom corner endpoint of the larger box and click on it. And you just told SketchUp to put those two endpoints in the exact same place, which means that you're going to be flush on this side and flush on the ground, nothing sinking in or anything like that. So that's a very precise move by picking a particular point and matching it to another. But here's the most important part of this lesson. With the move tool, click anywhere on this box and try to move it away. And if you've got what I've got going on, your box is probably stuck. So hit the escape key on your keyboard. Here's what happened there. I'm going to orbit around to where I'm looking almost like an elevation or 2D view of this. I'll press the space bar. And remember in 2D when we were drawing stuff that was attached to each other, we talked about clicking on surfaces and they were sharing an edge. Well, it turns out that this little box and this large box both share this edge segment and this bottom edge segment too. So when I try to move one away from the other, they're both fighting to keep it. This is called stickiness in SketchUp. It's that things that you draw on top of other things, they merge up together. It can be a feature sometimes, but it can also be a real headache in a situation like this. So how do you deal with stickiness when you don't want things to get stuck? Well, let's undo back one step. So I'll click on the undo arrow. This time with the space bar, press down. You can let go of it. Just press it down and let go to get the select tool. And then triple click 1, 2, 3 on the little box. Now put your cursor on the box somewhere and right click and pick the option for make group. Now let's try to move it again. Press M for the move tool. Hover over the bottom corner endpoint, click, let go, move your mouse, and hover on this endpoint, click, and let go. So you've set it down just like before, only now try to move it away. So click on the box somewhere and move it away, and click to set it down, no problem. So a group protects all of this geometry from merging up or being edited in any way. So even though the left box was not a group, the right one was protected so they couldn't merge up. There are other features of groups that we'll see and play around with in a little bit. But if you take nothing else away from this lesson, and it's one of the most important parts of what you'll learn in SketchUp, is that things stick together, and when objects shouldn't be sticking together, like a chair to a wall or a rug to a floor or things like that, you'll want to group early and group often to keep your models from getting tangled and all merged up in ways that you'd almost have to start over to make it work. Now, one more thing. Orbit around to the other side of the large box. Press R for the rectangle, and draw a rectangle on the side of this box that's to the inside, like I have here. Then press P for push-pull, and push-pull this surface away into a little box. So this happens sometimes. In the first example, we draw things off to the side, and then we place them next to each other or on each other, and we need to protect those things. But sometimes we're going to build on top of surfaces in SketchUp. And after building on top of this surface, we may want to isolate this so that it's no longer stuck. And you can do that. So press spacebar for the select tool. And we're going to have to select this differently. A triple click would get the big box too. We just want to select the little box. So I'll click once in white space to deselect. Then orbit around to where you get a view and click from left to right. And you need to make sure that this selection window that you're clicking and dragging from left to right has the box entirely within it. Let go and it'll select the whole thing. Now be careful, if you have a different kind of a view and you make a selection like this, it's going to also pick up things in the background. So I'll click once in white space and I'll orbit around and click to make a selection that's got just the stuff that's entirely within. This surface and this edge didn't get selected because they weren't entirely within, right? Now right click on this selection and pick the option for Make Group. Orbit around, and now that this is a group, let's see if we can move it away. Press M for the Move tool and click to move it away. And it seems like it's moving away at first, but it turns out that I can't move it in the red direction. It's just going off into infinity in the green direction. So hit Escape on your keyboard. So whereas on the first side we were dealing with stickiness, on this side we're dealing with something called gluing. Right-click on this group and pick the option for Unglue. This option will only be there when an object is considered glued. So click Unglue. Now, with the Move tool, try to click to move it away in the red direction, and there's no problem. So whereas stickiness is about things getting stuck together, gluing is when one object thinks that it belongs on a certain plane. Not this face or surface, but the infinite plane that this surface is on. SketchUp, because we drew it from that plane, it thought, hey, maybe I need to stick myself, or not stick, but glue myself to that plane and not allow you to move me away from it. Again, can be a feature in certain situations, but we unglue so that we can pull it away. And one more thing you might not have noticed, if you orbit around, this little box doesn't have one of its surfaces. So when we turned it into a group, there was a shared small surface here, and either the larger box or the smaller one would have to get it, and the other one was going to lose it because they were sharing it. In this case, that surface stayed with the larger box. So we'll orbit around, and the way to put that surface back onto this group, remember this group is protected not just from getting stuck, but also from being edited by you. So first you need to right-click on the group and pick the option for Edit Group. A little dashed box comes up. This just tells you you're in an edit mode for this stuff, and all the other grayed down stuff you can't touch right now. Press R for the rectangle tool and trace from one corner endpoint diagonally across to another corner endpoint, and that surface will fill in. Now you fix that, and to be out of the edit group mode, just right-click outside of this bounding box and pick the option for Close Group. So stickiness and gluing and using groups to help you out with those things.